Hi and welcome back to the Geek and Hermit. This is our review of Kane Lynch 2 Dog Days. It's basically a third-person shooter set in Shanghai, China, which is where you take on the role of one of two criminals, in this case Lynch for the most part. Even on the back of the case it says medicated psychopath about him, which to be fair he is. During combat he'll randomly start grunting, screaming and shouting random profanities, which is quite funny for a bit, but the game is actually filmed. It's kind of hard to explain really. Think of films like Cloverfield or Blair Witch. It's done from like a camcorder perspective. I'm not sure why they've done that. They've tried to get a more gritty, realistic feel, I suppose. It's a novelty for the first couple of minutes, but with me it worn thin pretty quick. I got sick of the glare constantly and shakiness, which you'll see a scene later on when I'm running, and then it just gets ridiculous at that point. But also the slight downside with it being from a camcorder perspective, even the audio seems to be done from that perspective as well. As in, a lot of the guns will actually sound like just, well, potato guns. Just going pff, 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 rather than the meaty kick that you come to expect. I mean, I don't know what they sound like in real life, but I don't know, you just think they should have more of a kick to them. All but one gun, I think, just sounded ridiculous, which I think is like the drawback to that. And also another issue with that is some of the cutscenes, well, one of the few cutscenes you actually get in the game, they don't seem to turn the audio up or enhance it or anything. So basically you're trying to really focus on what they're actually saying, and to be honest, half the time I didn't really know until towards the end of what they were talking about, and at that point the guy they were talking to, whose name I didn't even know, usually end up getting shot, crashed into, or something ridiculous like that. So I've got to say though, Kane Lynch is one of the worst games I've played in a long time. Honestly, I don't think I would have even finished it. I mean, to be fair, it's only 4 hours long. But towards the end I just felt like I was grinding through it because I was just sick to death of it. Because I don't know, it just feels really poorly made in some ways. I mean, there are good ideas in the game, but it just seems to be execution seems to be well off, or I don't know. It's like they made it in between making two massive games and thought, oh well, here we go, let's do this. I guess there's a running part talking about. This part actually made me feel physically sick whilst doing it. Okay, it's a novelty shaking a little bit to show that it's actually camcorded, but this got ridiculous. Like, you can barely see. I just think whoever quality control tested that, I don't know, they need to be sacked. I'm not sure if they're drinking on the job or couldn't be bothered, or it's a Friday, or stuff it, it's fine. I don't know. But to add insult to injury, there is then this part. Yes, that is a naked, middle-aged, bald man you were seen running down the street. Full of slices on his back. Basically the idea is he's just escaped from being tortured. But rather than just be maybe like a 1 minute section, which he sorry, that's just one of the worst things I've ever seen. That's completely lost my chain of thought now, seeing them opening that shutter. But basically, rather than just keeping it to a minute to like emphasise the fact they've just escaped, you have to play an entire level as a naked fat bald man. And it's going a little far. Luckily, thank God, they do pixelate certain areas, so you don't have to be mentally scarred for life. But it's like a lot of things in this game. What starts off as like, oh, that's different, they just then play it to death, like the camera angles or the glare. And it's extremely linear. There's not really, well, you can't really explore. It's just wave after wave after wave after wave after wave of nameless soldiers, triads and whatnot. But I don't know. I mean, I got this game second hand. It was really cheap. It was actually one of the 2 for 10 deals, and I was kind of wondering about maybe selling it on to try and get some of my £5 back. When you get that from a game, you know something's not quite right somewhere, which is a shame really, because I would actually like to see Kane Lynch in another game, but actually done well, because the dynamic between the two is actually interesting. Well, it would be more interesting if you actually got any character progression in this whatsoever. But I just think it's a shame they did this game, because I think the third one is now very unlikely, because I'm not sure what the sales are like, but I'm pretty damn sure it would have got panned by critics and everything. I don't know. I mean, this is the end of the game practically, which I won't spoil it, but it's the worst game ending I've ever seen. And no, don't start about Mass Effect 3. I'm sick of people going on about that. Watch the ending of this and then compare the two. Then you can speak. But yeah, please bear in mind this game is actually made by the people who made Hitman, so they should really know better and know what they're doing by now. So bearing that in mind, I'd have to give it a 3 out of 10. If it's a beginning developer, maybe I might have given them a little more slack. But you know, if a brand new startup or something, like the first attempt into the world of gaming. But because it's from the people that made Hitman, I'm sorry, there's just no excuses. They really should know what they're doing. When I would quite happily swap my game for a Twix, you just don't buy it at all. Save yourself, well, the £5. So, yeah, the multiplayer is actually okay, but that's about the only concession I'll actually give this game. So, thanks for watching.